And I don't like the way they do it. I know it's part of the challenge, maybe, but Baja is also dangerous at night. So all of us at NORRA, we always take care of everyone. We never leave anyone behind. We're always a traveling circus every single day. And if you break your car on a single day or a stage, you will have the opportunity to fix it the next day and restart the other day. So we'll give you a penalty for the stages that you didn't do, but you will always be able to continue and get to the party at the finish line. So that is the main goal. And one thing that you guys also have to consider when you look at an event is how safe it is rescue-wise. If you're involved in an accident where you need medical evacuation or you need support, you got to think about it. Maybe the XL event might be a cheaper option to come down to Baja, but it's a risk.
Well, let me just jump in here. I don't think there are any comparisons between these two events. What you're doing is clearly, and anybody listening should know, what you're doing is a well-organized event compared to a consciously unorganized event. And really the care that you take for the participants and what the participants are doing in your event is clearly different than the other event. And I may be doing the exact same thing in both events, driving 25 miles an hour, bouncing over the desert with a couple of cases of tequila that I'm trying not to break in my old Land Cruiser, trying to get to the end to the party each night. But for the serious racers to know that there's a sweep that's going to catch them if they've broken down, and that there's a plan if there's a medical need, whether it's just an accident or somebody who's older and has some health issues, if they need to get evacuated, it's terrific. It's a terrific peace of mind to know that you've made plans for that and you have a way to get people in need out into medical care immediately. And again, it was extraordinarily refreshing when we came down and went through the registration process and the tech process on our truck and got to meet everybody. And then the next morning I was really kind of sweating things because my old Land Cruiser doesn't have a resettable odometer. And of course in a rally you need to be able to reset your odometer to know where you are in each stage. And of course at that point we didn't have the Stella installed yet. It was getting installed just the morning before we departed. Yes. So I didn't know that the Stella tracker was going to tell me where we were at all times and tell me what dangers were coming with a signal to let us know that there was a dangerous part of the track that we were coming onto. But the last bit that really made me feel safe and well taken care of and looked after was Kurt LeDuc handing me a radio saying, hey, we're all going to stay in radio contact.
Yes.
So even when we couldn't see them because of dust and other stages, you didn't want to be right on somebody's bumper eating their dust. You wanted to get them ahead a little bit. We were all in radio contact. So it was terrific. So we really had, for an old vehicle like ours, and as, I don't know, underprepared as we are for driving around in the middle of nowhere in Baja, it was really terrific, and we were really well looked after. And again, to be able to stop for photos and stop for lunch and stop, it was really a terrific way. And I hope that those listening with a modern four-wheel drive vehicle or a vintage four-wheel drive vehicle, even better, take a look at the offerings from NORRA and figure out whether the 1000 is the way to do it in April or the 500 in October. They're both really terrific events.
Yeah, I got a nice story about how the safari class started, and we were somehow thinking of a way to get people to get their feet wet into the race and to start firing up people to come down and do it. So we managed to get Gerald Lee and Kurt LeDuc and Mark Stahl to be basically the
ambassadors.
The ambassadors for the safari expedition on the NORRA 500. But the first safari expedition was planned to be on the 2019 Mexican 1000. And we had 2 entries only. And that was not a very good response because people doesn't really know what the safari expedition is until you get somebody to do it and then spread the word, like what we are doing right now. So we had 2 entries. One was Paul Stouch, and the other one was Cody Rash. And I was very straight to them, and I told them, guys, you're the only 2 entries on the safari expedition for the Mexican 1000. And it might not be as fun as we had the idea, because you guys are going to be having dinner and lunch and everything by yourself together. So we decided to tell them if they chose to get a refund. And the cool story is that they said, well, I got my vacations planned, I got everything planned, so if you cancel the expedition, we will be there. So what we did is I spoke to the sweep and recovery effort, because all of them were driving 4x4s, and one is a Jeep, the other one is a Dodge Ram truck. And, well, they became part of the sweep and recovery crews. Cody and his wife, Carissa, and Paul and Carol Stouch, they were 2 couples that were willing to come down for the first safari expedition, and they ended up sweeping the course for us. And they had the most fun of their times, because they're coming back on 2020 to be sweep again. They got hooked again. That is the problem.
Well, yeah, I think that it's infectious. And, you know, I mean, with the amount of posts that Ted and I put up, I'm surprised that I think I only know of one fellow who's jumped in now for the 500 in his 1967 Toyota FJ45 pickup truck. Mm-hmm. But he's very fired up to do it, and that was from getting a post out on the Land Cruiser owners page on Facebook and showing them just how much fun I was having in my old truck and laughing. I'm happy to laugh at myself. So when my eyeballs are jiggling out of my skull, I'm happy to post that and laugh. And I was actually, the video that I posted, I was actually trying to film out the window of my truck, and because I was jiggling around so much, I hit the phone and it started recording me, and I didn't realize it. So I actually had a video of me driving, which was very, very funny when you look at it, to just see me jiggling around and talking about what's coming up on the road. Here's a jump and this and that, and you hear it all. And so I think from that post, Rob jumped in and decided that he had to be part of this madness. But again, from 50-plus-year-old vehicles, I understand there's a Myers-Manx that's going to be a recreation of Goldie running in the 1000.
Yes. We also got a call from the Myers-Manx Club, and they said, guys, we need to have an all Myers-Manx class, and we promise we'll get you guys entries, and we just want to have fun. And we got Bruce Myers involved. He's been with us since the very beginning. Even he's older than 90 years, but he's always coming down. If he doesn't get arrested, because we lost him maybe 2 or 3 years ago in Loreto. Everybody was looking for Mr. Myers, and they said, oh, he got kidnapped. What do you mean kidnapped? Yeah, he's lost. We can't find Mr. Myers. Happens that he went to dinner, and then he wanted to take a leak. But he didn't realize that he was in the middle of the street. So he got lifted by a police car and brought to the police station.
Things happen.
And got fined. But when we got all of our resources looking for Mr. Myers, he was laughing with the police guys, telling them stories about how he went to Baja for the first time and stuff like that. And it was fun. So it's always about the fun.
Well, it sure is always about the fun, and I happened to listen to an interview with Bruce Myers on Jim Riley's podcast, the Baja Sessions, and it really moved me because I didn't know his story, and it really moved me to hear him talk so passionately about Baja and so emotionally about what happened with him and the Myers-Manx and his company and all that. And that got me involved. I reached out to Jim to just say how much I enjoyed the show, and that got me involved in a sort of email thread with Jim, and I asked him if he was doing the 500, the Mexican 500, the inaugural Mexican 500, and he said, I'm not, because I've given up racing for a while, but whatever you have to do a NORRA event, do it. Move mountains, make anything happen that you need to have happen to do a NORRA event. It is absolutely the most fun you can have in the dirt, and you should figure out any way possible to do it. And that obviously got us into the Mexican 500, and that has me here today talking with the two of you about how much fun I had and what I can do to keep the fun going for folks who just have regular old four-wheel drives like mine to get in and do this event.
Well, it's a slow process. Like you said, we always go from 1, 2, 3 entries to 100 entries. So we have to spread the word. I think that it's happening slowly. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but if we get, 5, 4, 6 entries for this year's event, all of them are going to go back to their places really happy, and they're going to start spreading the word and talking about it and posting about it. And next year we might have 10, 12 entries. But that's the whole idea of this. It's to make it available for anyone that wants to come. And talking about Jim Riley, he has been supporting NORRA since day one. I mean, he's a really, really vintage guy. I mean, he loves creating stuff or bringing new restorations to race with us. We really miss him. He's a very good friend of us, and I just hope that he gets sick of doing nothing and coming down.
Well, he had
some of these years.
He had that 57 that he ran. Was that the Red Rooster?
Rooster.
The Ripon Rooster. Excuse me.
Yes.
Well, way back in 1986, I was a college kid photographing motor racing events for Trackside Photo with Jim Ober, who you may have come across in your days. So I was a kid living in San Diego, going to college and trying to become a professional photographer, and I got hooked up with Jim and Trackside Photo, and I came down and photographed the Baja 500 in 1986, and Jim had one of his associates drive me 25 miles into the middle of nowhere and drop me off for the day with a jug of water, and told me to photograph every vehicle that came through. And then when that 1955, in those days it was a 1955 Chevy before it became the 57. It got the fins from a 57 put on it, and Jim raced it as a 57, but in those days it was a 1955 Chevy. He said, when that 55 Chevy goes by you, start looking for our Volkswagen Thing, and we'll pick you up. Well, I think I was out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally, there was nothing for 25 miles, and I was out in the middle of nowhere for maybe 10 hours or something before they came out and picked me up. In fact, I thought I'd be a smarty pants, because when I guess you're a seasoned off-road racer, when you're racing out in the middle of nowhere and you see a photographer standing there, you must know there's a jump.
Yeah. So
all the racers were slowing down, and so I thought, well, maybe I should just lie down so they don't see me.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea until guys come through 3 abreast and run over your little camp and take out your backpack and your folding chair and your lunch and your water jug. And luckily they didn't run me over, but it was a very exciting opportunity for me to see off-road racing firsthand in those days. And I always remember that when you see the 55 Chevy, start looking for our Volkswagen Thing, and we'll come get you. Well, that's the timer for 1 hour, gentlemen. I can't believe it. We've managed to enjoy chatting about things for an hour, so I won't keep you any longer. I told you it would be an hour-long evening. We're hopefully going to go on to some tacos and such after, maybe a beer or a Fortaleza. And I really have to say thank you. First of all, Pepe, you didn't get to say much, but I really appreciate all the hard work you did with making the NORRA event so much fun. The great food, the great drink, the great music, the great venues. Really, you had it. It was a what would you call it in football? A touchdown, I guess. I was going to say a grand slam in baseball, but I know you're a football fan, so it was a Super Bowl touchdown to win the game. You really did a great job. And Ellis